Good Tuesday morning, Patriots. So, the FBI just seized 700 boxes of evidence that Democrats have been hiding for over 4 freaking years. 2 weeks ago, federal agents raided the Fulton County, Georgia elections warehouse and took everything. Every ballot, every tabular tape, every voter roll from the 2020 election. Not a routine audit, not standard procedure. This was the end of a 14-month standoff where Fulton County officials refused to comply with legal subpoenas from their own state election board. The raid pulled out 22,535 more ballots than voters who were recorded casting them. It exposed 315,000 votes that were certified without the required poll worker signatures. And it revealed a pattern of obstruction so blatant that it took a federal search warrant to get what should have been public record all along. And Patriots, the Democrats are in full panic mode. Fulton County is suing to get those ballots back. The legacy media is calling it Trump's obsession. And the left is screaming that investigating election fraud is somehow an assault on democracy. But here's what they won't tell you. If Fulton County had nothing to hide, they would have turned over these documents 14 months ago, when the state election board first asked. Instead, they fought, they delayed, they obstructed, and now the evidence is in federal custody, and they are terrified of what investigators are going to find. This is O'Connor's Right Stand. I'm John O'Connor, software programmer by day, conservative truth seeker by night. Today, we are breaking down what the FBI found, how Fulton County fought for over a year to hide it, why this matters for 2026, and what happens when Democrats finally face consequences for election fraud. The Right Stand starts now. Let me set the scene for you. January 28, 2026. Union City, Georgia, just south of Atlanta. The Fulton County Election Hub and Operations Center sits there like any other government warehouse. Around midday, FBI agents arrive. Not a couple of agents with clipboards. Dozens of them. They have got a search warrant signed by federal magistrate Judge Catherine Salinas. And they are not there to request documents politely. They are there to seize evidence under federal law. The warrant is crystal clear. Quote, all physical ballots from the 2020 general election in Fulton County, all in-person, absentee, and other ballots and absentee ballot envelopes. All tabular tapes for every voting machine used in Fulton County. All ballot images and digital data. All voter rolls. End quote. Everything. They took everything. Witnesses on the scene watched FBI agents back up trucks to the loading dock and spend hours carrying out box after box after box. 700 boxes in total. That's not a fishing expedition, Patriots. That's a full-scale evidence seizure. And here's where it gets really interesting. Tulsi Gabbard, the director of national intelligence, was there, personally, at an FBI raid on a county election office. Now, ask yourself, why would the DNI show up to a domestic law enforcement operation? Her job is foreign intelligence, not election investigations. The answer? Because election security is national security. If America's enemies wanted to undermine our democracy, the easiest path would be exploiting the exact vulnerabilities that Fulton County had in 2020. Within hours, Democrats started melting down. Rob Pitts, the Fulton County Commissioner Chair, held a press conference. He said, and I'm quoting here, I can no longer, as chair of this board, satisfy not only the citizens of Atlanta, but the citizens of the world that those ballots are still secure. Wait, hold on. You had custody of those ballots for 4 years, and they were secure. But now that the FBI has them, suddenly they are not secure? That's like a bank robber complaining that the cops didn't handle the stolen money carefully enough. The logic is absurd. Democrat State Representative Sarah Draper showed up and called the raid an assault on our democracy and an attempt to sow chaos. No, Representative. You want to know what's an assault on democracy? Counting 22,000 more ballots than you have voters. That sows chaos. That undermines confidence. The FBI is just doing the job Fulton County should have done 4 damn years ago, showing us the truth. So, what's actually in those 700 boxes that has Democrats so damn terrified? Let me walk you through the evidence, because this is where it gets, well, damning. In January, just weeks before the FBI raid, an organization called the Election Oversight Group released a 236-page report analyzing Fulton County's 2020 election. And Patriots, what they found should have been front-page freaking news across America. Here's the numbers that matter. Fulton County counted 148,319 absentee ballots in the 2020 general election. But, according to official voter records, only 125,784 voters were recorded as having cast an absentee ballot. Let me say that again. 148,319 ballots counted, 125,784 voters recorded. Do the math with me here. That's 22,535 more ballots than voters. In one county, the county that includes Atlanta, in the state that went to Biden by less than 12,000 votes. Now, Fulton County officials dispute these numbers. Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger's office says their data doesn't match. Okay, fine. Then show us. Open the books. Let independent auditors verify every single number. That's exactly what the state election board tried to do for 14 months. And what did Fulton County do? They refused. You don't fight transparency if you have nothing to hide. You don't obstruct audits if the numbers add up. Their refusal to cooperate tells you everything you need to know. But it gets worse. Way worse. The election oversight report also found that 74,000 absentee ballots were already recorded as cast the instant polls closed on November 3rd, 2020. Think about that timing, Patriots. When polls close, you should have ballots still coming through the mail, still being delivered, still being processed. But 74,000 were already in the system the moment voting ended. Where did those ballots come from? How did they arrive so conveniently? Those are the questions Fulton County doesn't want to answer. And then there's what I call the signature scandal. December 2025, a state election board meeting. Fulton County's own attorney, Ann Brumbaugh, stands up and admits on the record that more than 130 tabular tapes documenting approximately 315,000 early in-person votes were never signed by election workers as required under Georgia state law. 315,000 votes. No signatures verifying accuracy, no chain of custody. In Georgia, every tabular tape has to be signed by poll workers. It's not optional. It's not a suggestion. It's the law. It's how you verify the machine count is accurate. It's election security 101. And Fulton County just didn't do it. For 315,000 votes, 1/3 of a million votes with zero verification. When you add it up, 22,000 extra ballots, 74,000 mysteriously pre-counted votes, 315,000 votes without required signatures. You are not looking at mistakes. You are not looking at pandemic confusion. You are looking at a pattern. And by the way, this isn't even Fulton County's first rodeo with election problems. August 2024, the state election board officially reprimanded Fulton County after finding they scanned over 3,000 ballots twice during the 2020 recount. They were literally double counting votes. The board had to order an independent monitor for Fulton County's elections because they couldn't be trusted. So, when the FBI showed up with that search warrant on January 28th, they weren't investigating some wild conspiracy theory. They were investigating documented, admitted, verified violations of Georgia election law. The question isn't whether irregularities happened. Fulton County's own lawyers admitted they happened. The question is, how deep does this go? Here's what the legacy media doesn't want you to understand. This FBI raid didn't come out of nowhere. It was the final step in a process that started over a year ago, with Fulton County fighting at every turn to keep these records hidden. Let me walk you through the timeline because you need to see just how hard they fought to obstruct this investigation. November 2024, the Georgia State Election Board issues its first subpoena to Fulton County. They cite unexplained anomalies in vote tabulation and storage related to the 2020 election. They are asking for basic records, ballots, tapes, documents, the kind of stuff that's supposed to be available for public inspection. Fulton County slow walks it, delays, makes excuses. October 2025. Nearly a year later, the state board gets fed up and issues a second subpoena. This time they request all used and void ballots, all ballot stubs, all signature envelopes, all digital files, everything. Fulton County keeps stalling. July 2025. The State Election Board passes a resolution asking the U.S. Department of Justice to step in and effect compliance with voting transparency from Fulton County. Translation: we are a state board. They won't listen to us. We need federal help. October 30th, 2025. Attorney General Pam Bondi personally sends a letter to Fulton County. She demands, I'm quoting, all records in your possession responsive to the recent subpoena issued to your office by the State Election Board. This is the Attorney General of the United States formally ordering compliance with a lawful state subpoena. November 2025. Fulton County responds with bureaucratic double talk. They claim the ballots are under seal by a county judge and can't be released without a court order. Here's the irony, Patriots. Those ballots were sealed as evidence in Trump's lawsuit challenging the 2020 election. The same lawsuit where Georgia officials swore up and down that everything was clean and accurate. So now they are using a court seal meant to preserve evidence of fraud to prevent an investigation into fraud. You literally can't make this stuff up. December 2025. The DOJ files an actual federal lawsuit against Fulton County demanding these records under the Civil Rights Act. And still, Fulton County refuses. January 28, 2026. The FBI executes a search warrant. They don't ask permission. They don't negotiate. They show up with federal agents and take what Fulton County refused to provide for 14 freaking months. 14 months, Patriots. More than a year of subpoenas ignored. Federal demands rejected. Legal processes defied. At any point during those 14 months, Fulton County could have said, sure, here are the records. We have nothing to hide. Audit away. But they didn't. They fought. They obstructed. They lawyered up. Why? What were they so afraid of investigators finding? Some of you might be thinking, John, 2020 is over. Biden served his term. Trump's back in office. Why are we still talking about this? Let me tell you exactly why this matters. First, we are 9 months away from the 2026 midterms. Fulton County is the largest county in Georgia. It's the Democratic stronghold that flipped the state. And if they manipulated vote counts in 2020, and all the evidence says they did, what's stopping them from doing it again? Control of Congress could come down to Georgia races. If Fulton County can manufacture 22,000 extra ballots when they need them, they can swing House seats. They can swing Senate seats. They can steal elections. This isn't about the past. This is about protecting the integrity of elections happening this year. Second, for 4 years, we have been told that questioning 2020 makes you a conspiracy theorist, an election denier, a threat to democracy. The legacy media and big tech censored anyone who asked questions. They deplatformed people. They destroyed careers. And now, with Trump back in power and the FBI actually investigating, we are finding evidence of exactly what we said all along. irregularities, law violations, county officials hiding documents. This is vindication for 75 million Americans who had legitimate questions. We weren't crazy. We weren't conspiracy theorists. We were right to demand answers. Third, and this is crucial, this investigation sends a message to every county in every state. If you cheat, if you violate election law, if you obstruct investigations, there will be consequences. Not under Biden's DOJ, which looked the other way, but under Trump's DOJ, which actually enforces the law. President Trump said last week at the World Economic Forum, people will soon be prosecuted for what they did in the 2020 election. The legacy media mocked him, called it revenge, called it authoritarian. But is it revenge to prosecute officials who counted 22,000 more ballots than voters? Is it authoritarian to investigate people who certified 315,000 votes without required signatures? No. That's called accountability. That's called the rule of law. The reaction from Democrats tells you everything about how scared they are. Within 48 hours of the FBI raid, Fulton County Commissioner Marvin Arrington announced that they are filing a federal lawsuit to force the government to return the evidence, not to cooperate with the investigation, not to help find the truth, but to stop the investigation and get the ballots back. Think about that for a second. If you genuinely believed your election was clean, if you had nothing to hide, would your first move be suing to get the evidence back? Or would you say, great, finally someone's going to prove we did everything right? Their desperation to get those ballots back tells you they are terrified of what the FBI will find. Rob Pitts held another press conference claiming Fulton County's 2020 election has been reviewed, audited, and in every case we get a clean bill of health. Really? A clean bill of health? Then explain the 22,000 extra ballots. Explain the 315,000 votes without signatures. Explain why you fought for 14 months to avoid compliance if everything was so perfect. The legacy media has been even worse. ProPublica ran a piece called The Raid Unprecedented and a Significant Escalation in Trump's Breaking of Democratic Norms. NPR brought on election experts who said that this is all about Trump's obsession with 2020 and claimed there's no chance the FBI will find anything new because the ballots have been counted 3 times. Yeah, counted 3 times by the same people who allegedly manipulated them in the first place. That's not an audit. That's a cover-up. CNN, ABC, The Washington Post, they are all running the same narrative. This is weaponizing the DOJ. This is political revenge. This is attacking democracy. But not one of them addresses the actual evidence. Not one explains the ballot discrepancy. Not one asks why Fulton County fought so damn hard to hide documents. Because they can't. The evidence is real. The violations are documented. And they know it. Here's my favorite example of the hypocrisy. The Carter Center, Jimmy Carter's organization that monitors elections in Venezuela and Sierra Leone, issued a statement saying the raid appears to be yet another attempt to sow doubt in election integrity. The Carter Center will fly to Venezuela to investigate a socialist dictator stealing elections. But when there's documented evidence of problems in Georgia, in their own backyard, they defend the Democrats and attack the investigation. These aren't objective observers, patriots. They are partisan hacks protecting their own team. So, where do we go from here? The FBI now has 700 boxes of evidence. Ballots, tabular tapes, voter rolls, digital files, everything. Right now they are analyzing it, comparing ballot counts to voter records, checking signatures, examining those unsigned tabular tapes, digging into digital data for signs of manipulation. And if they find what the evidence suggests, proof of systematic fraud, there will be prosecutions. Georgia law is clear. Counting illegal ballots is a crime. Failing to follow chain of custody procedures is a crime. Obstructing election investigations is a crime. Trump wasn't joking when he said people will be prosecuted. He was telling you what's coming. Now, will this overturn the 2020 election? No. The Constitution doesn't have a mechanism for that. We are past that point. But that's not what this is about. This is about three things. 1, accountability. People who broke the law need to face consequences. If we don't prosecute election fraud when we find it, we are telling every corrupt county official in America that cheating is consequence-free. 2, deterrence. Every election official in every county in every state is watching this right now. They are seeing what happens when you manipulate elections and obstruct investigations. Some of them are thinking twice about whether it's worth the risk. 3, truth. The American people deserve to know what happened in 2020. Not speculation, not conspiracy theories, the facts. And those 700 boxes contain the facts. I want to ask you something, Patriots. What do you think the investigators are going to find when they analyze all that evidence? Do you think they will find that Fulton County's numbers add up perfectly? Or do you think that they are going to confirm what we already know? That something went very wrong in 2020? Leave a comment. Let me know what you think, because this story is far from over. Patriots, it's that time again. So let me go ahead and bring this home. 2 weeks ago, the FBI raided Fulton County, Georgia's election warehouse and seized 700 boxes of evidence from the 2020 election. Every ballot, every tabular tape, every voter roll. This wasn't a surprise raid. This was the end of a 14-month standoff where Fulton County officials refused to comply with legal subpoenas from their own state election board. The evidence is damning. 22,535 more ballots than voters. 315,000 votes certified without required signatures. A year of obstruction. And now finally, federal investigators have the documents Democrats fought so damn hard to hide. The legacy media is calling it Trump's obsession. Democrats are suing to get the ballots back. But here's the reality. If they had nothing to hide, they would have turned over these records 14 months ago when first asked. President Trump promised accountability. He promised prosecutions. And Patriots, that's exactly what's coming. This isn't about relitigating the past. This is about protecting the future. It's about making sure 2026 and 2028 are clean. It's about sending a message that if you cheat in American elections, you will face consequences. The choice is simple. Fight for election integrity now, or watch it disappear forever. I know which side I'm on. Well, hit that subscribe, follow, and or like button wherever you're listening. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, Rumble, whatever your platform of choice is. Check out O'Connor's Quick Strike on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays for rapid-fire news. And this podcast, as always, drops on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Find me on X at O'Connor Podcasts. Share this episode. People need to understand what the FBI just uncovered in Georgia. Have a great rest of your day, Patriots. Until Thursday, hold the line unapologetically. This is John O'Connor, signing off.